Okay, welcome everyone to our July community call. There are one or two people who are new to me here, so welcome. We hold these calls almost every month, and they're an opportunity for the IIIF Consortium to come together around topics of interest. So sometimes we'll have demos from tool creators, sometimes we'll have technical discussions, sometimes we'll get to take a look at some new or interesting implementations. The theme changes every month, and if you enjoy being here today, I would encourage you to attend more community calls in the future. I am sharing a link to our agenda in the chat. If you can take a moment to sign in if you haven't already, that would be great. And then before I hand it over to the folks from Transkriptorium to do their demo, I want to take an opportunity to just make a couple of community announcements. The first are some important dates to keep in mind. Our online meeting is going to happen January 25th through 28th this year. So you can expect some information about the call for proposals to come out about that soon. As in years past, this is a completely free event, and it is all online. So we hope to have a lot of people there. The other thing I'd like people to know is if you are either located in the Washington, D.C. area, or you will be there to attend the Fantastic Futures Conference in September, the IIIF Consortium and IIPC are coming together to do a free event on Monday, September 14th. It'll be a look at IIIF and web archiving intersections with AI, and it'll be an interesting and I think fun time, also a nice opportunity to meet up with people and join us for happy hour after. And then my last announcement is one from our accessibility and usability group. So I am going to turn it over to them to remind folks about the new IIIF Ideas Box.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy Reddick, and Meredith Steinfels is also here. And as Caitlin mentioned, we're from the Accessibility and Usability Community Group, and we just launched the IIIF Ideas Box or Idea Box. I actually can't remember if it's singular or plural. But there will be multiple ideas in there, so maybe it's plural. We created this box, thank you, Meredith, to provide a centralized spot for community members to articulate what needs or problem areas you all are having, and to share them with folks who might be able to help. And we also wanted to provide a centralized spot for those people who might be able to help, like developers or engineers, to view and respond to those requests. Our goals were to make it simple and easy and quick to fill out, as well as comprehensive to have every sort of question that might guide you in thinking about your problem area in the form. And we wanted both non-technical and technical community members to feel comfortable using it. So it's not in GitHub directly, but we also wanted technical people to be able to easily find the suggestions that go into it. And so the form, the answers, the submissions in the form do end up in GitHub for those folks too. We do have a link, I believe that Meredith has already shared them in the chat. So we hope that you all find it useful and that you fill it out. And if you have any feedback on the form, I believe we have a question at the end for that, or you can feel free to contact either one of us with any of your questions or feedback. Meredith, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just that we review all form submissions both in our co-chair meetings as well as in our community group meetings. So if you're interested in attending the community group meetings, I believe we're taking a summer break, but we should be back either August or September for that. So again, you contact either one of us or Brittany Lapierre, who is not with us right now. We're also on Slack. Just yeah. That's it. Thank you, Stacy, for covering so comprehensively.
And to you, Meredith, for the stuff I forgot.
Okay, thanks both. Like they said, there's information about their meetings are on the community calendar, and there's also a great accessibility and usability channel on Slack where you can ask questions about this. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Vicent Bosch from Transkriptorium for this month's demo. Thank you, Vicent.
Okay, Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. Here we are. Perfect.
Great.
So thank you very much to everybody in the IIIF consortium for allowing us to be here and be able to present this technology. I'm Vicent Bosch, the CTO of Transkriptorium, which is a spin-off of the Polytechnic University of Valencia in the UPV, founded by members of the Patent Recognition and Human Language Technology Group, a group, by the way, which was founded back in the 80s, and we've been working on patent recognition and machine learning before it was cool, or before all the hype at least, which feels right now like a long, long time ago. As part of our research, we've been tackling document analysis and handwritten text recognition. And we got ourselves into European and national funded projects to work on this technology, which our main goal was to make the textual content of the archive accessible. Initially, we had this naive idea. We were maybe young and dumb. We were going to build these wonderful models. They were going to work perfectly, no errors, and we could just run a search engine on the transcribed text, right? But then reality arrived, the ambiguity of handwritten text, and even more, the ambiguity of historical handwritten text was there. It dawned on us that we were never going to get a perfect model. Nobody can guarantee a perfect model in production. And if they tell you they can, then they're lying. And you can quote me on that. There were always going to be errors, and we would never be able to find what the HTR model misread. A single best guess flattens scholarly ambiguity into false confidence, which is why probabilistic indexing, or as we call them, pricks, came to be. Because instead of picking the single most probable reading, which might be wrong, we load into the database the whole graph of possibilities within reason. And in doing so, we increase the accuracy of every service built on top of it. So here, for example, you have a synthetic example in the page that you can see that it reads intelligence anchored to the ink. It has some ambiguities that we've worked into the example, like, for example, the I and the N are touching. There's no dot on top of the I. In the anchor, the C and the H look maybe like a D, depending on how you read it. And the same goes for the ink with the N and the K touching, the I missing. And then, of course, you have there a possibility of different types of reading of this text, which is basically what the large language, which the models probably usually give you, which is one transcription, and it might be incorrect. In this case, actually, it's the second best transcription that actually works for this. So we're missing a lot of data, and all of that information we have in the graph, we actually can put it on top of the image and see you can have more than one hypothesis for each of the zones of the text. And what does this do to you? These probabilities can be used in a much better way. And that's what we do at Archaic, which is our document intelligence platform, also known as the IIIF content server that couldn't help understand the documents on the way out. So let's take search, for example. Probabilistic indexing typically increases retrieval accuracy by 10 to 30%. And we let you consume it in 4 different ways. So you have hierarchical, so it's closest to the way the structure of the archive it actually is, with their folders, their books, their boxes, their units of installation, etc. Flat, which is maybe more close to the user, you get a ranking with a whole set of solutions. Statistics that let you have insights on top of the query you actually launched, so you actually see where the query you just launched is basically hitting more, which books you should be looking at, etc., etc. And lastly, but not leastly, semantic, which is closer to how Google actually does its searches nowadays, where it tries to provide you with data or hits, even though it might not actually contain the words that you put into the search box, but maybe have similar meaning, hopefully. I'm going to show you this in actual examples. For example, here, I'm going to have to log in. Here, for example, I'm going to do a search. So I'm going to search for wildcard nombre because I want to have all of the names. I then want to have the surname Vila. I'm not going to put the actual tag. I'm just going to say it has to be tagged. That's why I put the dollar behind it. And then I'm going to say that it has to end up with Traval, which is, and also I'm going to ask that it's tagged. So here you can see you have I'm doing a sequence. You can actually even see the query preview where I'm asking for a phrase and that there is a person, that there's the word Vila and it's Traval. I'm going to launch it, and then automatically I get the solutions in milliseconds. And you can see here the results in a hierarchical manner, as you can see here, where you can actually go to the different pages and end up with the pages that you have. You can actually have the flat results, and you can already see here that this wildcard nombre, this wildcard name, is actually automatically getting completed into the different type of names that we have: Franciscos, Pedro, Narcisos, etc., and the page that they reside. And then in the end, we have the query view. And here you have actually, again, everything, but filtered out with the statistics of the hits on the pages they have, the score sum, average sum, in which collections we have found the hits of all of the ones that are loaded into the server. We can also see the by book statistics, and we have also some nice graphs representing the actual summary, so you can see it visually with circle plots, with scatter plots, with heat maps. All of the solutions or all of the hits are basically high scoring hits in this case. And also we can see it in the histogram, again, the same solution. And of course, we can add more graphs to this if required. At any point in time, you can actually hit on any of the examples, and you will end up in the page represented by the circle, which ends up actually here with actual search values that are anchored into the ink. We're not just saying these words are here, we're actually showing you where it is on the actual page. And furthermore, we can also do semantic searching, right? So for example, we can go to here to another demonstration we have for some council minutes for the Diputación de La Coruña. And then we can here search the phrase cuidado de huérfanos. So we were working for orphan care y niños abandonados, and children that were abandoned. We're going to mark the semantic, and then we're going to search for it. Then automatically you can see here that we have all of the results. Sometimes, that it happens in Google, you're going to get results that are looking similar to what you were trying to look for. For example, in this case, it's talking about abandoned roads. And because it's talking about compromiso, ofrecimiento, and also we use quite a bit the word abandon, which we used in the query, it hits it there. But then here we have the second one is talking about the La Casa de Beneficencia, which is typically where the orphan kids or the abandoned kids would be staying. Third hit was now talking about huérfanos mayores de edad, etc., etc. So you can see here, basically, you have a semantic search on top of historical documents with probabilistic indexing, which again, I think it's something that is very new. Now, all of those possibilities, you can see how Prix improves accuracy, and we always give you the answers anchored to the ink. But of course, you might want to be able to curate the data. You might want to set the best reading yourself of all of the ones that are available, or export it later for an article or for a longitudinal analysis you're running. So transcribing an image is something that has always been there, and we just wanted to do a more proper modern version of it. So for example, here you can go inside of a collection and go to any of the pages. For example, here on this index, And you can go here to the editor, and actually you have a nice mini map which shows you each of the different places. The mini map is actually sorted to actually be compliant with how the actual text is written in the image, as you can see there. You can see that the heat map is color coded because we want to show you where the system has hypotheses that are he's less confident in, and therefore you maybe want to able to actually transcribe those first or review those first. At any point in time, you can actually click on a line and you will see the actual image on the top with the image, and you can have some examples there in order for you to auto complete it or decide which is the actual best reading of it. You can also see this actually maybe in this type of text, which is much more usual than an index, for example. Here we can see that a line has been validated, which is here, this first one. And you can see here that also you can actually tag words if you so desire to. We, again, always are compliant with the actual confidence scores and the average value. You can go and click anywhere you like. Once you're done with your transcription, you can always export all of the data to your desired standard. You can export it with our TCDO JSON, which has its own benefits, especially for probabilistic information. You can extract it to Alto XML, Page XML, HOCR HTML, and of course, a IIIF annotation list. We've also done some other type of editors because other type of formats require something else. For example, for forms. In forms, we have this editor where actually we replicate the actual form in the actual editor. So again, you have exactly the same controls as you had before, but also the editor for you to review the transcription and decide which is the correct hypothesis. It actually mimics how the image is, in a way trying to make your lives easier so that everything looks as it should and is more comprehensible. You don't have the semantic or the visual dissonance between the image and your actual thing that you want to review. And of course, the same goes for tables. In tables, you can go edit a table, and you can go to the table editor, and you actually have an Excel representation of the table here. And you can click along and go to the pages. You also have the same exact heat map so that you can go to each of the forms. Sometimes there is a lot of quotation marks, as you can see here, for example, in Maria. And then we do the automatic expansion of the idem quotation marks. And you can see here all of this Sant Maria that is here being expanded. You can always, of course, always correct things and then decide to, voila, automatically generate to all of this, and you're done with the correction. You can save things, you can export it to all of the formats. Here, in case you actually maybe want to export it to CSV, and then open it in your desired Excel or CSV watcher. I'm going to discard this, recovery data. No, are you sure you want to discard? Yes, of course. And here we have the actual finished Excel on top of the normal tips. Thank you. And you can see the whole Excel here in case you maybe want to do some graphs, you want to do some more study, maybe cross two tables, etc., etc. You can now have all of your data in your CSV after you've validated on top of the image as you wish to do so. So Bricks makes it easier to create the transcription. And by the way, welcome all transcribers to actual editors with color coding, with mini maps, with getting more than one hypothesis, with getting help in how to review and read things. But of course, there's still more to come. There's still more that we can do on top of probabilistic indexing. And the last step is extracting the actual data. Now, you might think we already have the transcriptions and I can curate them. So once they're curated, I'll just use the usual natural language processing tools I have and models that are already out there. But let's be honest, I doubt you're going to create the entire set of transcriptions for the whole collection. So for most of it, you still have the probabilistic indexing. But the good news is that we can do document intelligence directly on top of the probabilistic index. And at the same time, we can keep the extraction models and the large language models honest while we use them. And I'm going to show you how. So here, for example, I'm going to show you a set of documents. In this book specifically, we have done an automatic segmentation of the whole collection. As you can see here, it is represented by these lines for the book. You can go to a specific edit manager, and you can go and click in one of the documents that you have been automatically segmented. Automatically, for all of the documents that have been segmented, you can decide to do that manually or have the large language model that has Transkriptorium's own guardrails in order to generate all of the data for you. Before we proceed, it's very important to note that this large language model is open source weights and is deployed in your machine or in the environment that you choose to do so. We don't use any proprietary data, nor do we have agents installed in any other place, okay? So, for example, here, automatically, this document has been indicated that the type is a hidalguía proof. So it's a document regarding proof of nobility. It automatically detects a title for you and gives it a confidence score. And then it gives you a summary. But it doesn't give you a summary and then you just have to believe the summary, or you actually have to read the whole document in order to understand that the summary is correct. What we do is different. We give you the summary, but for each of the paragraphs, we give you a set of anchors that are the reason why that paragraph has come to be. So, for example, for this paragraph, we have here a set of data regarding that this document is talking about the certification of armas de Don Hernández Priete Muñoz. And here you see that he's talking about el mencionado Don José Fernández Priete Muñoz and la citada Doña Tomasa de Carmen, which is actually talking that they both want to have their certification of nobility, and that is why this anchor is part of here. At any point in time, you can validate the anchors, you can modify the actual text if you choose to do so, and close it. So it's just not, I have an automatic summary. It's the idea that, okay, I actually know which parts of the document I have to review in order to see if each of the paragraphs are correct, which is a step forward. Okay, you don't have to believe it because everything is anchored into the ink. And we generate a list of persons, of places, of organizations, events, and relationships. We are basically replicating the CDOC CRM entities and the table schema inside of Archaic, and allow you for each of the people to basically go here and review one of these entities. For example, here for Don Juan Muñoz de Miguel, at any point in time, we can go to the magnifying glass. We see here that it's actually written Don Juan Muñoz de Miguel. Okay, so that's a valid anchor to that person. And then here, again, we have Don Juan Muñoz, but it ends on the next line. So I'm going to click that too, modify the anchor. I'm verifying now the new anchor, and I stage and close. So now we know Don Juan Muñoz de Miguel is in the entity, but furthermore, I've actually validated against the pages, and it was just a couple of clicks. You can do exactly the same thing with places, and we actually even automatically try to locate and review the longitude and the latitude of each of the places. We use historical sites and in order to provide this data to you. And here you can see all of the places that have been covered in this document and actually placed to you here in the map. Same goes for organization. At any point of time, you can again see here that it's Reyes de Armas. That's a valid anchor. I'm going to stage and close that. I have it validated. The same goes for events, right? There was a battle. This is a solicitation. There's a certification, a probation. You can again go and validate each of the data on the verbs there. You can actually look at the whole events that happen throughout the pages in a narrative manner, with each of the events happen throughout all of the pages. At any point in time, you can go and hover on the events to see the anchor and see what's happening and click towards it to actually see it. We are actually also trying to build a topological graph of how things happen historically based on time relations. Furthermore, we can also always just have all of the graph of relations that happen. Like, for example, La Cruz de los Martirios was adopted by the Cicudos, or Don Juan Muñoz de Miguel was a son of or born or lived in Piedrahita. All of these relations that are here represented, you can have them here in a graph. A graph can be very complicated, especially in a proof of nobility, because there's a lot of cross-references regarding all of the people, all of the genealogical study of that person, where they live, who they related, what things they did and where, and that's why they should be considered noble, etc., etc. Actually quite a complicated graph, as you can see here. Okay, so now we have this wonderful thing that lets you curate a collection over its time and make it usable and make data extractable and structurable. But wait, you will say, Vincent, how is it usable externally outside of this lovely system that you're showing us? What about the, the IIIF funny kick you said at the beginning of it? Well, we make it usable by filling in the standards you choose, because Archaic is an actual IIIF content server. It serves search interface, it serves annotations, and it searches the nav place. And I'm going to show you here, for example, for this Diputación de La Coruña that we have here. Force me to sign again. And you have here all of the DLUs that are here present. Same thing as I showed you in the other one. And you can have a Mirador, standard Mirador implementation pointing against your Archaic server. So for example, here, you can show the collection, you can go to the Actas en Pleno, and then you can go to a book. You can do a search, and this will actually be hitting the search server inside of Archaic. You can use all of the fancy operators that I used before. For purpose of the demo, I'm just going to do a sample Antonio. So we have here, we go and we get this Antonio that is here, okay? Furthermore, you can actually even look at the nav place on this DLU, and we have it here shown, where this Hospital de San Lázaro, Seminario de Modolledo, etc., etc. So all of the places that you place on the DLU that are validated end up exported via the nav place interface, and you can look at them in the Mirador. The transcriptions you have with the one best that are curated, they're also here. So you have here the annotations, okay? You can highlight them all. I'm not going to teach you much about IIIF Mirador that you don't already know, but here basically you have the whole transcriptions there. And furthermore, you actually even have the entities that are placed, because not only we are sharing as annotations the transcription, we are also sharing as annotation, for example, here, the person. Now here, for example, you have a don error here that is actually placed, where is he? Here, don error. Okay, which is Don Daniel Joyanes Varela. We can actually see this person in the deputy. We can go see to the persons, and if we search for error, no, wait, I'm not actually in the correct DLU. So it's this one, and here you have Don Error. So instead of Don Error, I'm going to change his name to Don Daniel Joyanes Varela. I'm going to save this. It's already saved. I'm going to go into Mirador, and I'm going to refresh this view. Then, of course, automatically, I will just have to go again into this. I go here. I search again for Antonio. I go to this page. I go to the transcriptions. And now it is no longer Don Error. It is Don Daniel Joyanes Varela. as you can see here. So I basically saw something wrong with the IIIF annotations that I was receiving. I can go to archive, do the change, save it, and automatically I can see it represented again here in the Mirador viewer. You can curate, and as you curate, everything is visible and viewable by all of the IIIF editors or all of the interconnectivity that IIIF is giving you to the outside. Okay, but furthermore, apart from this, you can also export all of the DDU entities into the different formats. So, for example, you can grab one DDU entity and you can export it to all of the possible standards that are there. You can export it to JSON, to Atom, to EAD, EAC, even to RICO. By the way, we might be the first system that actually does an export to RICO. Now we just have to find the actual first system that ingests RICO, but that's a problem for another time. And here, for example, you can actually even see how this Diputación de La Coruña book actually ends up, or the Real Maestranza ends up here in this Atom. I need to log in again. And here you can see all of the data from the books of the Real Maestranza from the deputy here represented with a list with the actual summary, curated with a list of people, persons, etc., etc. Okay, so all of this, by the way, is accessible. All of the data that is inside of Archaic is accessible via REST APIs. We extract all of the information into the standards, IIIF, JSONs, XML, nothing that is binarized or that traps you in any type of way. Also, it is accessible via Model Context Protocol in case you have an in-house agent and you would like to connect your agent that is of your confidence to your actual archive and start asking questions like, I want to do a summary regarding this event, etc., etc. You can do that. And all of this can be installed wherever you want, from a machine under your desk to a server in the cloud under your control. So thank you very much. That is what I wanted to present to you regarding the archive platform and the solutions we at Transkriptorium are trying to provide to this very complex problem. I've stated this a lot of times during the presentation. We want to provide you with the tools. We want to provide the GLAM with tools that always allows them to be able to review what the artificial intelligence does. Artificial intelligence is a lovely tool, but unless you have proper ways to include the expert in the loop, it makes no sense. Archives have always been the paladins of correct data, and we can't let the baton drop in our generation. Thank you very much for listening to me. If you have any questions, I'm gladly try to answer them.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Vincent. That was excellent. We do have time now for Q&A. What I will ask is, first, feel free to unmute and ask your question. If you would prefer not to, you can type it in the chat, and I will read it out for you.
Okay. Since no one's asking anything, by the way, you can also do, apologies I missed anything, but okay. But does it do automatic language recognition? Okay, so here's the thing. At Transkriptorium, we don't work with general models. we train specific models for each of the archives or the collection because we are very firm believers of data sovereignty, and we therefore do not use data from one archive from one of our clients to train the data to another unless they give explicit permission for that case. So in this sense, we never reuse the data. Now, when we do train a model for your collection, what happens is that we train it in all of the possibilities that are present inside of your collection. In fact, we have here data that is written in Italian, in English. We have historical documents that are written in Catalan mixed with Castellano mixed with Latin. We have no problems with anything of this. Our models are trained on the collection in order to surface and be able to properly process that collection, and in the end we end up with the right transcription. We also detect cut words, we expand abbreviations, and we modernize and normalize stuff if you so wish to. So we are basically language agnostic and even multi-language agnostic. We just train the model very well so that it covers the actual collection.
Okay, other questions? One from the chat. Are you in conversation with any DAMS vendors about the ability to integrate this tool with their systems?
Okay, so can you, sorry for my ignorance, what are the acronyms for, what is the acronym for DAMS stand for?
Digital Asset Management.
So for example, preservation systems like Atom, right? Or others. So we have talked with Artifactual regarding being able to pass things from one place to one system to the other. Basically, we can export this in all of the formats that you can see, and all of those formats, all of those digital preservation systems use one of those formats. So creating the actual interface to be able to export from one to the other is very easy. We are working right now with, as I said, Artifactual regarding Atom, and you can see there that it's already exported in the system as you saw it. We're also doing it with another vendor called Albadoc that also uses ISAT-G as the representation for the description of each of the archival documents. But for us, creating an interface is very easy because all of the data is there. It's just a case of massaging it into the actual API required by the receiving system. Vincent, can you explain how we are? Okay, perfect. So basically, another thing that is very interesting is the European Artificial Intelligence Act. The Artificial Intelligence Act says that any type of solution that is provided by an artificial intelligence system has to have a confidence score, has to be able to be traced to the data, and is able to have a workflow so that the user reviews it. Now, as you have seen here, basically probabilistic indexing, even before the European Artificial Intelligence Act was created, PRIX already, or probabilistic indexing, already covered all the bases because we are generating spots for the specific word on a page, and we actually provide the score for that word. Okay, so in that case, we can see here now we have the Francisco expanded, and then you have the two options with the tag. So probabilistic indexing from the get-go was already European Artificial Intelligence Act compliant before it even existed. Then, of course, we have all of the editors for you to review and the workflow to do so. And every time you change a word in the editor, it automatically updates the transcription and the editor and improves the searches for later. And then what happens is that all of the DDUs, all of the document management that I've shown you, again, you are also able to review the confidence score we have on the resulting entity. For example, here, this 91%, these persons regarding each of the values, the average value, and also we have percentage of confidence scores for each of the anchors. And again, we provide you with a way to automatically go to the place and review if that anchor is correct. Is John Joseph Hernandez Prieto Muñoz here? He's here, but he actually ends up in the next line. We verify, we go to the next, Don José Fernández Prita y Muñoz, and the next line. Okay, so Don José Fernández Prita y Muñoz, here he got the 2 lines correctly. So you can see here how you can very easily go through all of the anchors and automatically, so here he hasn't said the surnames, again verify Don José Fernández Prita. Okay, again, without the second surname are correct too. And then I save and state, and automatically I've reviewed one person. So you have a very nice way to actually review things, as you have seen. You can actually also do this in forms too. And you can actually also use GDPR rules if you want to. Maybe not so important for historical archives, but for modern archives, maybe you want to be able to indicate how much a certain person is in your archives. So you can go and select a person, automatically get that person where he may be linked, and lawyer is requesting this, and generate a PDF report, and then automatically get your report regarding that person, in which units he is appearing, in which text and relations he is appearing to, and even have it the images so that you can be GDPR compliant, maybe more for mixed or the intermediate archives, and less for historicals, but this might be also a very good tool for anonymization.
One more question.
Thank you. Can you explain an experience with large and heterogeneous collections? Well, yeah, for sure. Basically, right now at the moment, between all of our combined clients, I think we're close to 12 or 13 million pages that have been transcribed throughout all of the history of projects jointly between the Patent Recognition and Human Language Technologies and Transkriptorium. And you can see here that all of these collections, basically, even this collection has like 360,000 pages that are here present, and basically the access is instantaneous. And all of these collections are in Italian, and you can even see Antonino. Maybe I think, yeah, for example, Antonino. Let's see if I find something. So here is Antonino, which is basically maybe written in Italian. This I can't even read this text, so I'm sorry for the example I picked. So Cordova, that one I know. Okay. Yeah, so basically, as you can see, we basically, when we are processing a collection, we don't really care about the writing style. We even do processing of musical score sheets if required. If there's an image and it has a textual representation or description of it, we can do the transcription, and we don't care about the languages or if the fact that it's multi-language, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Any last questions? No. Okay, well, I'd like to thank Vincent and his colleagues for joining us today. This was a great demo. I suspect that we may have some more questions that pop up after as people get a chance to view this on our YouTube channel. So, Vincent, is it okay if people email you with questions?
Yeah, for sure. No, not a problem. You can mail me directly, or also we have a PO box called info@transcriptorium.com. Maybe you can send the message there, and either me or one of my colleagues will reply to you promptly, for sure. But in any case, if you feel like contact me directly for whatever reason, just do so.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. And I would encourage you, one, to review the recording when we put it on YouTube and to join us next month and after for our community calls. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you very much to the whole IIIF community.
Bye-bye.